Thank you everyone for coming, and thank you for all of the previous speakers before. If you don't know me, my name is Farah. I'm an international student from Egypt. I've been in the US for 2 years, and I'm incredibly happy and moved that so many people have come here to support. Thank you for coming. We have gathered today. Thank you. We have gathered today to grieve and protest together. We have been grieving for generations, and many of us have been suffering in silence. There are no words that I can say today that will cover how deep this goes. It would take a million speeches to dissect the gross lack of humanity that we have seen over the past 70 years. We have felt helpless, we have been gaslit by the entire world, we have been told that our tears are those of terrorists. They kicked people out of their land, then said it was actually theirs. They killed children and then blamed it on Hamas. They said that they are not targeting innocent civilians, but attacked a hospital and dared to call it a misfire inside of Gaza. The Israeli government said, yes, I'm sure they did, of course they did. Of course Palestine, which has no resources to even tell its own history, whose journalists are targeted in battle, and whose only reliable news channels are being cut off, cannot win this he said, she said war. Why would they need to silence what is true? But that's why we are here today, to be the voices of the Palestinian people who have been suffering under inhumane conditions for decades, while the international world turns a blind eye to Israeli war crimes. Thousands dead, millions displaced. What a privilege it must be to compare your suffering. But we know the truth, we always have. We have been saying free Palestine since we came out of our mother's wombs. Be very careful. This is not a conflict or a war, this is genocide. And anyone who tells you otherwise has been conditioned by white supremacy to care less about Arab lives. I am tired of de-radicalizing the truth to make it easier for privileged people to swallow. This is the truth. If you have been struggling to face it, struggling with your own conditioning and bias, congratulations. You've been conscious to truths that those around you who have known oppression have already known their entire lives. Watching genocide happen in real time is not supposed to be easy. And if you've spent every day crying and hurting, this is a completely normal reaction to the ethnic cleansing that is happening on your country's dime. We know that Israel is an apartheid state that has been massacring the Palestinian people and committing genocide for over 70 plus years. In fact, they have aided in the genocide and colonization of other people as well. And we know that the Palestinians have a right to defend themselves against a multi-billion-dollar colonial power that is being funded by other multi-billion-dollar colonial powers. Ask, why does Israel even control all of the water, electricity, and resources in Palestine? Why would bombing Palestinians of all religions and multiple religious sites equate to protecting Jewish people? Why bomb into the West Bank, Egypt, Syria, Lebanon, if their fight is with Hamas? Why would the US personally see to it that Israel is established in the Middle East? And most importantly, ask why the world has had a sudden outcry now, despite this being a decades-long situation. James Baldwin once said that the state of Israel was not created for the salvation of Jews, it was created for the salvation of Western interests. The Palestinians have been paying for the British colonial policy of divide and rule, and for Europe's guilty conscience. The narrative that wanting liberation for Palestine equals anti-Semitism is a control tactic, a gross misuse of generational suffering that has convinced Jewish people that we are against them, that we are the danger. We are not here to promote hate or discrimination. We are not your enemy. It is not in our history to discriminate against other religions, but do you know whose history it is in? Who attacked, watched, stood by, and even funded other massacres across the world, and are now committing the same war crimes in the name of Jewish people. Despite what Israel has advertised to Jewish people for years, there is no equality and safety in an occupied colonial land, even for Jewish people. Israel is an inherently anti-Semitic government and is not a safe haven for anyone. All colonial land is based on white supremacy, racism, and oppression as long as it benefits the colonizer. And as long as it benefits the colonizer, they control the public, twist the narrative, and take advantage of the average citizen to do their bidding for them. The liberation of Palestine is the liberation of all. This is an issue that concerns all of us. This is a humanitarian failure. There are so many systems of oppression being used against Palestine, and those same systems of oppression have oppressed other people as well. Pay close attention to the entities that support Israel, to their history, to their values, and you will understand why exactly it is that they support Israel. It means keeping up systems of oppression that those in power will continuously benefit from. And so when one is exposed, they are all exposed. We will never forget how they have lied to us, tried to fool us, pit us against each other. We will never forget how they killed us and then denied it, saying it was our fault for forcing their hand. They have even tried to tell us that from the river to the sea is oppressive, but they do not know that this chant has existed long before them, that the indigenous Palestinian land has always existed from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea. This assumption that we have the same genocidal desires as them is the biggest reflection of their own hate and cruelty. We have received hate and been targeted for our support of Palestine, but that will not stop us. We will also never forget those who have stood with us during these times and supported the liberation of Palestine. It is important to come together now, reach our hand out to those who are here and support one another. We are not here to explain ourselves or defend our right to be angry and sad. We are here to heal what we can together. To our allies and to those who have used their privilege to fight for our cause, we thank you and we stand with you and we see you, and history will never forget you. What we do matters. Even just on a social media level, it is important to expose their lies. We may be under-resourced, but our efforts are not in vain. Correcting the narrative is important. Watch closely how they use language against you, and remember that only victors write history. Do not let them distract you from what is happening with ideologies of the future and their so-called peace. Peace is not liberation. We can be very peaceful under occupation. We can be very peaceful when we are oppressed. In order to get true peace, we must first take a stand against oppression and resist those who wish to dehumanize us. I want to remind you that this is not new, that history repeats itself constantly, that there have been many activists and movements in the past that were criminalized and even assassinated, and then taught in schools 40 years later as preaching for rights in a time of oppression. I wish that I could tell you that this isn't just a repeat of oppression that we have failed to stop for generations, because it is. But what I can tell you, and what I've learned from the Palestinian people, is that we do not break in the face of oppression, we flourish. Learn from them. Learn from the Palestinian people whose flag was banned by Israel, so they drew watermelons instead, red, white, and green to represent their liberation. Whose kids have all of the humor in the world and play martyr and paramedic in refugee camps. Whose elders remember a time before the occupation when they were free to pray in their own mosques and have their neighbors over for tea. Those who sing in prison cells, dreamt of olive trees waiting to return to their homeland. The mothers who still wait for their martyred sons, the women who wait for their husbands, the children who wait for their fathers and brothers. Subhanallah, it is only the greatest human metaphor that the Palestinian people are anything but broken. Mahmoud Darwish said, "I don't know who sold our homeland, but I know who paid the price." Learn from them. Coming together like this makes a difference. Choosing our freedom, real freedom, is at the heart of every movement. We may not fix it today, but we won't silently let them get away with it. And history will tell future generations that we gathered here today and fought with everything we could to save our people. في جسمي نار ورصاص وحديد علمك في إيدي واسمي شهيد. They ask me to tell them what shaheed means. Listen, listen. It means the beloved in Persian, witness in Arabic. Don't ever doubt that you're on the right side of history, and I hope that I live long enough to see the people of Palestine and all people suffering under occupation and Western colonial power be free. Thank you.